Hello from gardening at Dwensa in Ireland. Well, it's the end of September now, so it's a perfect time to take sage or salvia cuttings. Here in Ireland, we are in the temperate zone, so sages aren't completely hardy in our climate. We need to take precautions, and those precautions include taking soft or semi-ripe cuttings in autumn so that they can be overwintered and we have a backup plan in case our salvias die. Plus salvias, they get quite leggy after a while, so it's good to rejuvenate the plant by taking cuttings. Now here we have a lovely salvia called Love and Wishes, and those of you who saw my video in June of the Helen Dillon garden will remember that at the end Helen gave me a lovely cutting of this salvia, and it was just a small piece at the time, and already you can see what a plant has been made from that small cutting taken back in June. It's already worthy of being put in a pot and used in the garden. Now, I would like to take another cutting of this plant to make sure that I have more than one, but if we look closely at the plant, you can see that each shoot is actually in flower. And to take a cutting, you need to find a non-flowering shoot. And, well, isn't it a terrible thing to complain about that there isn't a single shoot on this plant that isn't in flower, but that's just the way it is. So I'm not going to chance a cutting with this now. However, this salvia here is a great one to take a cutting from. It doesn't have a flowering shoot, so what we're going to do is cut one. And we're going to cut about 2 to 3 inches in length, which for me is about the size of my finger. So I'm going to cut it just say here, taking a sharp scissors and just snipping below. Now this is best done in early morning, and after you've taken the cutting, then what you should do is pop them into a plastic bag like this to keep the moisture in. I can't stress how important it is to keep the moisture in for these cuttings. Here's my cutting, and what you need to do is to give a good clean cut underneath a pair of leaves. Now I originally cut it here. I could just trim it a little bit closer there if I wanted, but what I'm actually going to do is go up here and just cut below the leaf, leaving me about 2 to 3 inches. There's the length of my finger against it. A good sharp secateurs and snip. There we go. Also, if you've taken the cuttings earlier, this is a good thing to just make sure that you're removing any kind of dead or dried out stem. Now what I'm going to do is remove the leaves from along the stem. Not all of them, mind, because plants do need leaves to photosynthesize and do all the things that they need to do to survive, but we can take a lot of them off. If you leave all the leaves on, then the plant is going to be stressed because it's going to be trying the whole time to mind those leaves, to feed them and to keep them hydrated, and it's going to take away from root production. And with the cuttings, that's what you want to do to make sure the plant makes new roots. Now what I'm actually going to do with this one as well is these 2 leaves here I'm going to cut in half, just to again reduce the amount of work that this plant is going to have to do. And there we go. Now that's my cutting. The next step is to dip it in some hormone rooting powder. If you have this, well and good. If you don't have it, don't worry about it. I've often made cuttings and not used that. And just shake it off a bit like that. That cutting is ready to go. For my cutting mix, I'm using 50% low-grade compost and 50% perlite. The mix then goes into this tray, and I prefer to use these little cells that are a bit longer than the normal ones. You can also use a pot and just put your cuttings around the edge of the pot. Okay, now firm these down a little bit and smooth off. Now I'm going to place my salvia cutting into the mix and just push it down there quite firm and firm it around and give it a bit of water. Once they're in place, then water them in well. This is the great thing about doing these things in the greenhouse. You don't have to worry too much about water spreading everywhere. And just top dress with some grit. And once that's done, then what you need to do is cover your cuttings so that it keeps the moisture in, and keep them in a warm place, so room temperature until they're rooted, which will take a few weeks. And after that, store them frost-free over winter, which, you know, you could chance them in the greenhouse at that stage, providing you've got something like a 5-degree minimum in your greenhouse like I do. And that was my video on taking salvia cuttings, which is something we need to do in this part of the world, and I hope you found it useful and will feel encouraged to go out and grab a few salvia cuttings. Hopefully next year you'll have a lot to look forward to. Thanks very much for watching. That's all for now.